He's got 5 defenders, and the 6th defender is social media. And, that's a reality. And he's not going to be the last player that the machine decides to target.
Wait a minute. Let me make sure
Sam Presti knew exactly what he was walking into. He even said it out loud, told reporters that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would probably kill him for bringing this up. And then he brought it up anyway. For nearly 7 straight minutes. No notes. No filter. Just the most respected executive in basketball going to war for his franchise player in front of every camera and microphone he could find. That alone should tell you something. Because Sam Presti doesn't do things by accident. This is the man who patiently assembled one of the most terrifying young rosters the league has ever seen, the man who has been named Executive of the Year, the man who turned a teardown rebuild into a championship contender without ever panicking, without ever making a desperate move. When Sam Presti opens his mouth and lets it rip for 7 minutes at an end-of-season press conference, there's a reason for it. And the reason is simple. He's tired of watching the best player on his team get treated differently than everyone else in the league, and he finally decided to say so. Here's what he said, and more importantly, here's why every single word of it matters. Presti looked directly at the cameras and put the situation in terms nobody could misunderstand. He said Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes out there every night playing against 6 opponents, 5 defenders on the floor, and a 6th one that never gets tired, never fouls out, and follows him everywhere he goes, social media. And he wasn't being cute about it. He was serious. He laid out the reality that SGA has spent the better part of 2 years operating inside a machine that decided, for whatever reason, that his style of play needed to be exposed and torn apart. Foul beta. Flopper. The guy who games the refs. These are the labels that have followed a 2-time MVP around like a shadow, and Presti had apparently been sitting on his response long enough. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just about anonymous Twitter accounts and keyboard warriors. The criticism aimed at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has come from inside the building, multiple buildings. In fact, we're talking about coaches at the highest level of the sport. Mike Brown from New York, Steve Kerr in Golden State, J.B. Bickerstaff in Detroit, J.J. Redick. These aren't internet trolls sitting in their basements. These are credentialed professionals who have stood at post-game podiums and taken pointed shots at the way SGA operates on the court. And then there are the players. Jaylen Brown went on the record about it. Devin Booker weighed in. Victor Wembanyama, the most anticipated young talent in a generation, stood up and talked about something called ethical basketball, and everyone in that press room understood exactly who he was referring to without him needing to say the name. Presti addressed all of them. He didn't dance around it or soften it. He made a specific argument that the post-game press conference has transformed from a place where you talk about your own team into a competitive weapon. You get up there, you complain about the referees, you throw shade at the other team's star, and suddenly the next day's coverage is about whether that star is actually getting away with something. He called it a bully pulpit used to manufacture competitive advantage. And the more you think about that, the harder it is to actually disagree with him. But Presti wasn't done, because beyond the tactical media warfare, he came with the numbers. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drew 415 fouls over the course of the season. 415. Of those, 11 were challenged by opposing teams. 11 out of 415. And of those 11 challenges, 4 were overturned. 4. That means roughly 2.5% of the fouls called in his favor were successfully disputed. 2.5%. And yet, somehow the dominant narrative around this man's game is that he's out there manufacturing phantom contact and stealing possessions at the free throw line. Presti pointed out something that should genuinely embarrass the people driving that narrative. Gilgeous-Alexander's foul totals put him tied for 8th in the entire league, alongside Joel Embiid, behind Jaylen Brown, behind Victor Wembanyama himself. You know, the guy who invented the phrase ethical basketball. Where is that conversation? Where is that energy? Presti then did something that felt deeply personal. He went through every generic complaint that gets thrown at NBA players as a group, the narratives, the talking points, the things people say to dismiss modern basketball, and he walked through them one by one, showing why none of them apply to Shai. Defense. SGA is a two-way player. Presti acknowledged that playing alongside 4 or 5 All-NBA defenders means his individual defensive contributions sometimes get buried in the box score, but make no mistake about what he is on that end. Complaining to officials, trash-talking, bad behavior toward referees. 3 technical fouls all season. 3. And not one of them was for arguing a call. 1 was for waving a towel in celebration when a role player hit a big shot. That's it. That's the violation. Load management, sitting out games, protecting minutes at the expense of the paying fan. SGA plays every night. Every single night, he's out there. And the three-point revolution that supposedly swallowed the sport whole? Presti saved his best line for that one. He said Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has brought the mid-range game back as an art form. Not a gimmick, not a compromise, an art form. Now, nobody outside of Oklahoma City is going to hear all of this and suddenly change their mind. That's not how this works. The people who were already annoyed by SGA's game will hear Presti's rant and roll their eyes. They'll say he's biased. Of course he's defending his own guy. What else is he going to say? And that reaction is completely predictable, which is why Presti almost certainly knew he would get it before he ever opened his mouth. But that's the thing about what he did. It wasn't really aimed at his critics. It was aimed at one person. And that person's initials are SGA. Because here's the reality. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes out there every single night, absorbs this criticism without responding to it, brushes off every question about it in front of reporters, and just keeps playing. He doesn't take the bait. He doesn't engage. He just wins. And if some part of that takes a toll, if some part of the noise ever gets to him even slightly, then what Presti did on Monday was the most powerful thing a general manager can do for his player. He stood up in front of the world and said, "We see you. We know what you're doing. We know what you're dealing with, and we've got your back." The machine, as Presti put it, will eventually move on to somebody else. It always does. But until it does, at least Shai Gilgeous-Alexander knows that the man running his franchise isn't just watching, he's paying attention to every single thing.